that. Welcome everyone to the 2024 Sustainable Cloth Challenge. This year it's entitled Mend, Make, and Do. And Nancy Bonomo is going to lead our discussion today in our presentation.
If I can figure out how to share the slides. I didn't. Sorry, I don't use Zoom very often. Does that work? No.
We're waiting. Everybody remember to put your mute button on.
Go.
Did that do it?
It did. Well
Excellent.
done.
Are you all seeing the 4 pictures on the side, or is that just on my screen?
Looks
I
good.
see it.
Okay, great. Okay, so as Marianne just said, this year we're really focusing the Sustainable Cloth Project on Mend, Make, Do. I thought we'd do just a quick overview of today. We're going to do some introductions, a little overview of the fiber shed, if anyone's new to fiber shed, talk about some slow fashion, what is that and why does it matter? Then we're going to talk about the 2024 challenge specifics. And really today focusing a little bit on what's in your closet as we start off the challenge. We'll go through some upcoming events and then do a little Q&As. Although feel free to ask any questions as you have them. Don't feel like you have to wait. This is not a formal presentation so much as it's a group here. So a quick little introduction about FiberShed, anyone that's new to it. It was started by Rebecca Burgess in 2010, and the idea was to develop and wear a locally grown prototype wardrobe. And it was a challenge. The idea here being, taking fibers that are grown or raised in your area, sheep, cotton, bast fibers, the dyes also, the fiber and dyeing process being local, working with local designers and makers. Oh, sorry, well, I don't know how to go back. Does anyone know how to go back? No, we're just
If you move
Yep.
move the mouse, well, either try hitting your left arrow or do Alt left. Okay.
No, I'm still going forward. All right, like I said, I don't use Zoom. I'm a Teams-based person. No. Right. That worked, right?
There you go. Very
Sorry, I
resourceful.
put my mouse down. So we were talking about working with designers, local garments, and then the idea being that once those garments are created and worn and used, they can actually go back in the compost because they're natural products. They go back into the soil and then the cycle can complete. So thinking of the idea of soil to soil. We start with the soil, we go through the process of our clothing, and it goes back to the soil. With that in the fiber shed, really developing that regional network, both the fibers and the dyes, thinking about climate beneficial agriculture. Is what we're doing beneficial to the earth or is it harming the earth? Rebuilding some regional manufacturing. I mean, a lot of the manufacturing has left the US and gone to places. So what can we do to really rebuild that? Like connecting those wearers and users to fiber source. I like to think of that as, we talk about farm to table, this is farm to closet. Are we connected to where our clothes are coming from? And also supporting this journey to slow fashion, which is what we're going to talk a little bit more about today. Comparing that to looking at the typical textile production, where we're using pesticides, a lot of water, fossil fuels, and carbon footprint, all of that goes into manufacturing. And then we've got these clothes that end up in landfills, polluting the water, microplastics and pollution. So this is more of your typical production cycle, which we're trying to move away from. We are the Chesapeake Fiber Shed. This is a picture of the Chesapeake Watershed, which is sort of what it's mostly based on. We tend to be more about the Virginia, DC, Maryland, Delaware areas. The areas of Pennsylvania and New York have their own fiber shed. think of us in this area, but loosely following the Chesapeake watershed. We're really trying to create that regional network of community for producers and users. That's really the goal of the Chesapeake Fiber Shed and promoting environmentally sustainable textile chain practices. Talk a little bit about slow fashion. What is slow fashion? Slow fashion is slowing down that process that we were looking at of the textile production. We should think about what we're doing. We're wearing natural fibers, wools, cottons, linens, silk, hemp, wedding clothes that are made out of plastic. I mean, if you think about polyester, nylon, acrylic, those are all just plastic. Choosing quality garments over quantity, you know, a piece that can last. And then keeping clothes for as long as you can. I like this little chart, this hierarchy of needs, you know, using what you have, borrowing where you can, swapping, thrifting, making, and then buying being just the smallest amount, you know, only buying what we need to buy. And so we can take a look at what we're looking at for the 2024 challenge. In the past few years, a lot of you have participated in the past. We have done challenges based off really using local products. This year we're shifting a little bit and we're looking at repurposing or creating a wardrobe of items from natural materials within our fiber shed. We're looking at our own closets. What do we have? What can we repurpose? What can we reuse that already exists as opposed to making new? New is still fine, and maybe it's bringing some new and old together. But we really look at this challenge as supporting the goals of Fiber Shed, and the goals are educating our communities and ourselves, raising awareness, introducing new and reinforcing new habits. So some of us already have these habits, but also reinforcing them, and connecting fiber producers to markets. This is really what we're looking to do in our Fiber Shed and using the challenge to support those missions. So if we look at mend, make, do, we're really looking at, we have three streams, which we'll talk about in a minute. We're really looking at, like, what do we have? What's already in our closet? Can you mend something? Can you modify a garment using local materials? Maybe you have something that you already have that you can modify. You can use local fibers to update the look. You can mend it. You can fix it. You can make it into something new. Maybe swap items for items you might wear more. Again, sort of keeping the cloth we already have out of landfills. It's always an amazing stat to me that they estimate the average person throws out 81 pounds of clothing a year. I don't think I do. I think most of us probably are more aware, but it's still something to consider if we're throwing out less than 81 people are throwing out more. So how can we reuse what we already have as opposed to throwing things out and buying new? So looking at the challenge guidelines, we break it into three separate paths. We have the envisioning, which is really a lot of our focus this year. Really reusing existing textiles that we have, taking a deep dive into the clothing restoration, taking a deep dive into our closets, what we have, what we can restore, time-honored practices of mending and repurposing. There's a lot of talk now about mending. Really re-envisioning a new life for those textiles. Some of the guidelines we're working with here are clothes that have materials must be repurposed goods and from local suppliers. You can use added materials, but really using clothes that we already have that are from this area. They can be from your closet, from a friend, from the thrift store, and turning them into something new. A second pathway we have is the embracing, looking at things that are in our area. If we do want to create something new, which is an option in the challenge, we're using something locally, farmed and processed in our area, natural fibers, dyeing with locally and non-synthetic compounds. Think about even if the patterns can be sourced from local designers. And then the notions, threads, buttons, etc., could be exempt. And then we can also look at borrowing. Sometimes we really do need that help from our neighbors. You may need to go into a different fiber shed, a different area, but we still want to try to keep the half of what we're doing is coming from locally. Maybe some of what you're doing is from your closet or from a local thrift store, from a local farm or producer, but then you may need to pull things in from other areas. Also, being mindful of where they're coming from and why we need to take it from that area. So what we're going to look at today a little bit more is focusing on like what's in your closet. Asking the questions. Do you know where your clothes are? Do you even know what you have? I mean, a lot of us have a lot more clothes in our closets than we wear on a typical basis. then what are they made of? I mean, it's always interesting to ask people, do they look at the labels of their clothes? What are they made out of? Are they cotton? Are they linen? Are they synthetic? I mean, just stopping and looking at those and like, stopping for a moment and maybe making choices of what we are having, what we're wearing. And for me, do you have clothes that you never wear? I can look at my closet and there's things that like, gosh, I haven't worn that in years. So is it something that you could either adapt to make it usable, or is it time to get rid of it? Or can it be repurposed into something that's not maybe an article of clothing that you can use in your house? Same thing, you have clothes that you don't wear them because they have stains or rips. Maybe those could be, either cleaned, they could be mended. You can make little patches on the stains to cover them up and make it usable. So really sort of starting to think about what you have already. Are those things wearable and usable? And what could you repurpose? What can you make into something new? And then also just what are you done with? Maybe you could pass it on, somebody else could use it. Or it may be it may really be done, but asking that question consciously, is it really a finished piece? I mean, is the life of the garment done? So a couple things we're doing to help with this process. We put together a short survey that we'll send out after our talk today. And it really is going to help you kind of walk through the number of clothes you have, how many shirts, how many pairs of pants, and then asking for a couple details about sampling. Like take a couple articles, like 2 shirts, and say, how long have you had these? What are they? What's the fiber content? And really take a look at those garments specifically and kind of dive into it. Like what about those garments, the ones that you wear, where are they from? How long have you had them? What are they made of? What will happen when you're done with it? We're going to send out a survey that you can fill out. It is anonymous, and then we'll share that data at our next meetup to kind of talk and see what people come up with and have conversations about that. We've also created a completely optional worksheet. We have 3 different formats of it. You can have an online version or a printing version, and this is a sample we put together that you can kind of go through your own closet and write things down if you want to. This is only an option. But it might, it's January, it's time to start fresh, maybe going through and listing all the things you have, what they are, what they're made of. And so this is an example we threw together to kind of, does it fit? Do I wear it? Can it be repurposed or mended? Maybe it's missing buttons and it needs mending. For me, I have a velvet dress that I never wear. It's a fancy dress for holidays, and maybe it can become something else. And so again, this is an option that you might want to play with. You can do maybe you do your pants or shirts. It's sort of to trigger you to kind of go into your own closet and see what you have and what makes sense and what you can reuse. Again, completely optional, but it might also help you with that survey that we were talking about. Again, you're also welcome to not do it. So if you'd like to join the challenge, if you're interested in joining the challenge, it sounds like something you want to do for the year of repurposing garments. You can sign up, you can register on the website, and that'll keep you in all the mailings, and we'll have a tally of who's actually participating. Pick your initial stream of interest. Is it repurposing, is it borrowing, or do you want to do something that's with materials completely within the fiber shed? And then decide what you're going to make. And I think that's one thing we'll do at future meetings. For those that are new, we always kind of do a little sharing and showing and telling of I've decided to make this, or here's some ideas I'm toying with. We can kind of throw the things back and forth. As we do different educational topics, we'll also spend some time having people talk about what they're going to make and then participate. And we do, we're going to go through in a minute some ideas we have for the rest of the year. We hope everybody joins in. So these are some events that we've sort of penciled in. Some are scheduled, some are penciled in, and we'll talk through them. So in February, we're looking at doing another Zoom meetup, talking about why mending matters. And I'll preface this, we've partnered with Waterford Craft School in Waterford, Virginia, and we're going to do a couple of workshops with them in conjunction with our repurposing a year of Make, Mend, Do. So at March 9th, there is a thrifting workshop at Waterford Craft School. You can sign up for that on their website. We should put that link in the comments. Maybe somebody can do that. There is a fee, their classes will have a fee involved. You can see that on their website. And then later in March, we'll do another Zoom meetup talking about avoiding the landfill. What to do with those unwanted clothes. If it's something you're done with, what can we do with them to be the most ecologically friendly that we can? In April, we'll do a Zoom meetup, and we're talking about doing a mending matinee. So we'll watch a movie about the impact of textiles. We're taking suggestions if you have them. So we'll watch together, and you can bring your mending, and we'll watch a short film and talk about it. There's another workshop at Waterford in April that is scheduled, Introduction to Basic Mending. It'll be an all-day workshop using locally sourced materials and dyed materials. And that you can also sign up for at Waterford on their website. In May, later in May, we'll do what to do with leftover fabric. It's a Zoom. On June 22nd, we're going to be doing a garment dye workshop at Green Matters, which is in Gap, Pennsylvania. So a bit of a field trip, but still, it's up near the Lancaster area for those that aren't familiar. That one will also have a fee involved. They'll be dyeing a garment. That may work into something. You may want to work that into your plans of, I'm going to repurpose something. That'll be a chance for maybe some over dyeing to happen. We're going to skip July and August because everybody's busy with travel. And move into September. Kimberly Guthrie at VCU is going to do a session on refashioning. And then in October, we'll do a Zoom meetup, and that'll mostly be a touch base. How is everybody's projects wrapping up, kind of preparing for our November potluck and fashion show. We're also thinking about, these are ideas, and if you have other ideas, throw them out there, about maybe doing a monthly or summer book club, that we do a little book club that we can read and then maybe chat about it on our Facebook group, or people want to talk about it at the last 10 minutes of the Zoom workshop. So that's just an idea we're throwing out. The other idea is to do a clothing swap, so we can gather together and actually share and exchange clothes. If that's something people are interested in, and we're thinking about how we can work that into our schedule and where we can do that. As I mentioned, we've got a Facebook group and an Instagram page, so feel free to follow, share, add, share your process and your making of things. Participate. We do have that interest survey on the website, and then you can always go to our website or email us to learn more about what we're doing. And I'm going to open this up for questions and answers. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thanks, Nancy.
I went at that really fast, so it's probably a lot of questions. Thoughts, reactions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm a spinner, weaver, dyer, knitter.
Yeah.
So I'm really mostly looking at getting involved with local fiber, and I've just moved here from Colorado. So I have like a huge supply of stuff that I gathered locally, like 5 minutes from my house in Colorado, but that's not Virginia fiber shed. So I get that. So, but my main question is the dye piece. So are you saying that I cannot use acid dyes? Is that what you're saying, that I can only use natural dyes? And if I'm only using natural dyes, am I only using natural dyes that are sourced within the fiber shed? So that means no cochineal, nothing else, only indigo that I grow in my backyard? Like, what are my parameters? Because, yeah. And then are we limiting our mordants with the natural dyes to only alum and maybe iron so that they're completely non-toxic? So, I mean, I guess I have some issues with the only natural dye thing, if that's the case, but I'd like to know what the real parameters are.
I think what we've worked in the past, and other people can speak up and share if they have thoughts on it, is intention. I mean, there are definitely times where we borrow from other areas. I think we are mostly sticking with natural materials as opposed to the acid dyes. But I think that's the intent, is to stick with the natural materials. However, keeping things in our fiber shed is often not possible. I mean, if you really want those pinks, one thing you might want to do is talk to people about other colors you can get from that are more local. But if cochineal is really the way you want to go, I would just
I guess,
yeah.
So I've worked with natural dyes, and I have a friend who's like an amazing natural dyer from New Mexico. So I've worked across the board with natural dyes. My problem is natural dyes are not consistent generally. And if I am dyeing 12 skeins of yarn or more for a sweater, I want them to all be the same.
Sure.
And I think it's challenging to do that with natural dyes. And I'm also limited in my color ranges. So, I mean, I know there are colors I can get. I can grow marigolds, but they're not light safe. You know, I struggle with natural dyes because I want my clothing to last for a long time, to wear it forever. And there are very few natural dyes that are, besides yellow, that are going to give me that.
So Sarah, I think that's why we have the 3 streams. Because if you want to do something that's totally embracing, it is what you said. It's all, you know, only our fiber shed, only things that are grown in our fiber shed and dyes from our fiber shed, etc. But we also realize that that's not going to be great for everybody. And like Nancy said, the intention is what's important. So we have the borrow stream, which would entail, you know, being intentional about, you know, acid dyes, if that's what you want to use, making sure that what is going down the drain is just your, you know, your vinegar and water, that kind of thing, so that it's the least impact that we can have.
Right.
I think, I mean, that's the way I look at it. Kirsten, do you have any other ideas about that?
I absolutely agree. I think that's, you know, I think that's the healthiest way that we can frame it. And in fact, even sourcing something locally from our closet, we all move around. So it might not actually have been a purchase from Chesapeake Fiber Shed. So if you have fibers in your stash that are from another location, how silly would that be not to actually use it? So
Okay.
we've developed those like sort of 3 streams just as guidelines, but there's like so much crossover and flexibility. So yeah.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
I'll also agree, Nancy, with the intentionality, you know, as the, yeah. And that we're all
Would it
asked,
be safe? Would it be safe to say is something like you want us to take the next step? You know what I mean? Maybe we hasn't done all of these things before, but
yeah,
maybe
that's
we
just
could
what I was
take
gonna
one
say.
step forward on this path.
Yeah,
Right.
take
We
it.
want everyone at the table in the way that they can best be here.
But it is called a challenge in that we're sort of having personal challenges. I mean, really, that's what it's about. Just, yeah, that's well put.
One thing to think about, I think about too, for me, I mean, I also have I have a lot of acid dye yarns. And, you know, it doesn't mean I'm not using those for other things, but for this challenge, I may choose to do something, like I'm looking to like really repurpose some things I already have. So, I mean, I generally have more than one project going on throughout a year. So for, you know, I will be making baby blankets and things for other people out of the yarn I have, but I might make a project, like look at repurposing something I already have, or making something small, that goes more with this challenge. But but I'm also trying to, like, as I like what Kirsten said about, you know, not having to rush out and buy something that's completely local because everything I have isn't. Using what I have is a very valuable source too. I was joking at one point, I'm like, what I should probably do for this challenge is just like finish all of my unfinished projects. Like that is very repurposing, like finish up the things that I have. I'm like, I don't even know what I have anymore. But you know, I think I like what Kirsten said too. It's a very individual challenge. Like what is a challenge for you? What is something that you can look at and say, I'm going to challenge myself to do this project, and I'm going to learn something about resourcing and thinking about how that's what impact that's having. And maybe, you know, using what you already have is impactful because it's not buying something new. And that does have its own sustainable impact. So for each person, it's a little bit individual. And so it's the guidelines are there, but it's also being mindful of what is working for you and what impact you can have. That helps.
I'd like to say 2 things. One is I think the list of topics that you have coming up, rolling through the year, are just terrific. And I'm particularly impressed you have the one on the what to do with unwanted fabric or what to do with unwanted clothing, because I think a lot of us who are crafters have things lying around that you don't want to throw it away, and you want to mindfully move it on to the next owner or something like that. So thank you. I'm looking forward to those. And then also, I just wanted to propose, as we look through our closets, a contest, which I may very well win, which is why I'm proposing it. But it would be interesting to see who has the oldest thing in their closet. I, for example, have this sweater that my mother knit over 60 years ago. I would like to enter into the contest.
Wow.
But it would be fun to see. I mean, that also qualifies as being, you know, natural fabric and things.
And how about also domestically produced? Because
Yep.
I have my father's Pendletons, his shirts that he had in high school, and they look gorgeous. They've been worn to death over the years. The only thing that's missing of them is like the inside of the cuffs and around the neck that's
Yeah.
worn out.
See,
But
win
yeah,
the contest. But yeah, let's show these things out that have, lasted over half a century if we've got them. I think that would be just fun to know that we're not alone on this journey, that other people have done it before us.
That's a
I
great
have like, it's like a dressing gown or something that belonged to my great grandmother, and some hand stitched quilts that my great grandmother made.
Fantastic.
I'm very new to the group and to the process. I'm also a felter. I'm a visual artist, and my felted pieces wind up being artwork on the wall. But I just purchased an entire Jacob fleece, and so my goal, and it's a lofty one, and I'm going to need a lot of encouragement, is to make a vest for my husband entirely from that fleece. And it's literally 4 miles away from my home. And I hope that I get comfortable using Jacob wool for a number of things, because I've got a nice relationship with the breeder. So I've never felted any garments other than a scarf. So yeah, Marion, I'm looking at you.
happy to help.
And I'm talking about a fitted vest for my husband, so with design elements on it. So I'm a little nervous about that. And I'm wearing a sweater knit by my sister, and I had an attack of moths early in the summer, and they tried to get to my wool stash and a lot of wool garments. And so I'm going to be, right now I'm in my painting studio. I'm like, this is the sweater I'll wear in my painting studio because it's moth eaten, and if it gets paint on, I'm not going to worry. But I wouldn't mind possibly tackling some ways of mending it. I'm not a knitter. I have seen these little mending looms, and I am learning how to weave, so I might do that. I am starting to spin also. So, there are possibilities out there. I do not have the space or the time to tackle dyeing. So if there's somebody out there who has a dye process and I could pay you to dye things, I might be looking at that. But I'm also going to be trying to work, including with my artwork, with the natural colors of the wool as it comes off the sheep as much as possible. That's my deep dive this year, is just undyed. But I have a lot of clothing that I've been trying to sell through consignment or what have you, and the woman who runs a consignment shop rejected a lot of it. And I said the clothing swap, I'm very, if anybody, and some of it is Water Creek stuff, not all of it is natural fibers. But if people are interested in repurposing, I have tons of clothing that I would love to get rid of. And I don't relish the thought of trying to sell it, but I won't just dump it either. So if there's a way for us to connect in between our meetups, that would be great too.
Margo, that's a great, actually, segue. I did want to kind of canvas people and say, is there interest in a clothing swap? If we were to arrange something, I see a lot of heads nodding. If we were to arrange something, it would probably be, thinking maybe one of the local libraries, you can rent spaces in their rooms, that we could set something up and do a clothing swap.
Be great.
And people could bring in things they're done with. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of interest. So we will keep talking about how to make that work.
Nancy.
Yeah.
Kathy Reed. My only concern with that clothing swap is that we all want to get rid of stuff. Then what do we do? We'll take a gigantic load over to Blue Ridge Hospice Thrift,
Exactly. That might happen.
Well, yeah, I think it would be great. It would make me go through my closet and see what is it, answer
Right.
that question. What is it that I don't want anymore?
Right.
And maybe I only offer to swap some of the nicest things, and then I'll go ahead and take that opportunity to take it to a thrift store or something. But I think that would help motivate me to get going with it.
And that's why we thought that sort of looking at your closet is a very good January step, because until you look and see what's in your closet, you don't really know what you need, or what you could mend or what you could repurpose. You don't, most of us, I imagine, although some people may be more organized, but most of us probably have things that we've completely forgotten we have. And it is a useful exercise to go through and see what we have. Or, I've probably all done that, where you buy something, you're like, I already had an equivalent of that. Why did I buy something new? So it kind of helps us be more mindful of what we're doing.
As someone already a very limited and curated closet situation, I would happily take some clothing from some other people so I can repurpose into a garment.
I'm sure some of us would be happy to give some. So, okay, we'll keep talking about how to make that work. And if anybody has experience doing a clothing swap, we'd love to have you help out with that. I've never done one.
So Mark, where are you located again?
I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
All right, 3 hours away, but maybe we can meet up somewhere. So I've already done the whole closet curating thing. I did that last year, so I lost a considerable amount of weight. So I have a whole lot of things that don't fit for the right reason. They were clothes that I loved and they're nice, but I'm not going to pay to have them, and I don't wear them. I don't work. I'm retired, so So if there's somebody who has sewing skills that can either resize them or repurpose them, I would love to pass them on to that. So, yeah.
We also have a very, I guess, strong thrift store support in our area too. Many in the Richmond area that gladly accept clothing. Now, I cannot say what they do with each garment they get, but I know when I go in there to shop, I see plenty of things in there. So,
Well, it's just not clothing either. It's all of textiles. I mean, sheets and towels and blankets, and I'm seeing a lot of really neat clothes being made out of blankets. And I'm a weaver, and I'm making cloth out of sheets and flannel and even silk. I had a friend give me several silk saris that they no longer wear or will never use again. And so, this is something that's just been sitting in their closet for years. And it's going to get repurposed into table runners and placemats and things like that.
Great.
If you or any of the other weavers are interested in making several yards of wool, I've been looking to make or thrift like a nice wool dress coat. That was something I was considering doing for this challenge. But it's really hard to find wool that's made in Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania areas. So if you know where I could find wool, I would very much appreciate help finding that. I'm happy to pay an arm and a leg for it.
They're all standing out in the pasture.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm doing this year too, is I've been working on spinning the yardage to weave the yardage to make a wool shirt, like a Pendleton, but wool from, and it was close to me wool when I lived in Colorado. It was 2 miles away. but wool that I saw, I was there for shearing, I picked it, so anyway.
Great. We've had a question in the chat about finding a source of communicating with one another. I'm not sure what the best way to do that, but I think it's a really good idea. We've got a Facebook group, Marian? So maybe it's using the Facebook group that we can.
I was going to suggest, I don't know if everybody's on Facebook, but a group specifically for the Sustainable Cloth Challenge. So that was a way for us to communicate with each other about either learning new skills, paying somebody for their skills, or swapping stuff, either way, without, I don't know. I don't get posts from the Chesapeake Fiber Shed it's not coming through my stream regularly, so I'm not sure whether that's because it's not active or what. But it's been useful for a breed study group that I'm in. So
Is Facebook a good way for people to communicate, or do people have other suggestions?
We do have a Facebook group that's a sustainable cloth one, and I will put the link for you to join in the chat.
I'm trying to break up with social media this year. So for me, which is fine. I mean, I still use Facebook. Another way is to do like an email group.
I was gonna say, would that be better for people to do like an email group? Or WhatsApp?
Either
think
one
email
works for
or-
me.
Email or even WhatsApp or something like that could
WhatsApp?
be good.
Email's fine too. I mean, that's the way the guild, the Potomac Fiber Arts Guild communicates as an old-fashioned listserv. So
Okay,
There's Nancy, I can set that up
that'd be great, Kathy.
if you, yeah. Just
Great.
let me know who they all are.
Yes, Paulette.
So, the email that we received to let us know about this meeting, and then we signed up for it, and then there was a link. If people had a want, I'm looking for this, could they reply to all on that email list, or would that be abusing that email list? Or if they have something that they want to get rid of available, if the email starts with available or looking for, could it simply be emailed? I haven't been on Facebook since before Thanksgiving, but
Well, I do like the idea if we can set up a listserv type group, and we can use basically, if we'll use the emails that if you signed up for the Sustainable Cloth Challenge, we'll use those if that works. And if you don't want to be on it, please let us know. Please drop a note and say, I'd rather not be on it.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think the listserv can then, people can also, if they choose to get off of it, they can, if they don't want to be on it. And we can add and subtract people from it.
Yeah,
Kathy?
a lot of newsletters in the old days, would have your events, and then on the back, and towards the end of it would be an area where receivers of that newsletter could post things that they have available or things that they were looking for. So it's like a classified section or personal in there.
I think a listserv is a good space for that.
I think I accidentally just sent this to one person in the chat. But I was thinking, what if we used Discord? Then we could have multiple channels that, like, one for thrifting, one for swapping clothes, one for tips about different things, and they could be muted if you don't want to read them. And I could set up a server for that and send it to everyone, and you can add yourselves to it. And then people aren't getting inundated with emails.
Ravelry is a facilitator for groups and contacting each other.
But Ravelry is largely focused on knitting. I don't know that it would want to be used for as wide a scope of fiber-related activities as we're talking about.
Well,
I don't know what Discord is, but it sounds really nice that you could. I mean, I would learn to use it if you set that up, because it sounds like you could have different channels and elect to go into them. Like I was thinking, I think it's premature now, but maybe in the wake of the Avoiding Landfill Zoom meeting, people could just set in, my experience is this is a good local thrift shop, and in my case, what's local to me may not be of interest to the people who are up in Pennsylvania or Richmond, but it might be of interest to some. And that would just be there as a way that we could populate as we found out things of use, of general use.
Maybe the March meeting could be how to use Discord.
I'm not super familiar with Discord, but it sounds like a good vehicle.
Right.
Yeah, I've never actually set up a server, so I'm going to learn how to do that right now.
Okay.
Thank you,
If you're willing to take that on, we'd love it.
Yeah, sure.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
And is that a free service, do you think?
Yeah, it's free. There's an app, and you can also use it on a desktop, or I guess you can look it up online and log in that way.
I just posted the wiki about it, since some of us old uns don't.
Thank you.
I've heard of it.
Thank you.
But it wasn't something I was gonna add, but I'm happy to learn how to use that in addition to Facebook and Instagram, which is as far as I got with social media, so.
Okay, that sounds great.
Feel like an old lady saying this, but I know my kids use it all the time. Use Discord all the time, so.
Okay, great.
Got young people in your household, show you don't know. They can show you.
And reassuringly to everyone here, I'm on some Discords for servers for sewing and other related activities, and we have people of all ages and computer literacy, so it's not like a very difficult thing that will require, you know, a lot of support to use.
It's reassuring.
Good to know.
And again, learning new skills, taking on new challenges, that's all good.
So other questions? Should folks anyone have any ideas about what they want to make? Might be someone who can help you on your journey on this call.
I have a lot of projects, a growing pile of clothes that need to be mended. So I think my challenge might be to start and finish those.
I'm interested in techniques on mending the neckline of t-shirts. My husband has all these t-shirts that fray up at the collar, and he says to me, these t-shirts are very good and I like them. The only problem is the neckline is losing its structure and it's raveling out. So I was thinking maybe a stretch stitch on the sewing machine, but I'm also interested in any other ideas anyone has.
There's some good visible mending books that do some neat things with that situation. I don't have the name in front of me now, but I know you can get them easily. And if you also go on Pinterest, you'll find some suggestions of how you can treat those.
Yep, some of the information I got led me to the stretch stitch on the sewing machine. So, but I wanted to make sure I had, explored other avenues too.
I have my favorite barn coat. This is Kathy. Kathy Reed. It's an Eddie Bauer from 1990-ish. And it's finally, well, and then I had a pen explode in the pocket. And the goats have changed a couple of the buttons or torn them, and the pocket with it. And it's time to replace the cuffs. So I think there's plenty of opportunities on that one. And I got Cindy Connor's seeds, her cotton seeds are available. So I'm going to grow some of that, but I'll probably be using cotton I grew a few years ago to spend and try and maybe make some fabric for the cuffs. We'll see. That might be a bridge too far. That might be like a 3-year project. I don't know.
There was a time when I for a few years when I sewed a lot of ice skating costumes, and I learned to sew stretchy fabrics with a serger. And that's when I learned about that stretchy edging material that's on t-shirts. So I know that one option would be to, go to go to Joann's and tell them you want to repair 10 t-shirts and you need that stretchy edging, that they sell.
Oh.
And then you can either hire someone to sew it on for you or buy a serger or just, have a friend to help you with it.
I have a serger, so the challenge will be relearning how to use that thing, but that's a potential solution.
Yeah, that's very doable, and it'll make the t-shirts like new then.
Cool.
See, we're already sharing great tips and ideas.
If you need any serger help, that's something I have a lot of experience with. I work a lot with stretchy cotton fabric, so I have all kinds of ribbing already in stock and probably more than I need. And I also can use, I have a serger and I can help with using
Oh,
one.
thank you, Megan. I appreciate that.
Th-
We'll make a
this-
date of it.
This,
Okay.
this makes me think that maybe in our survey, we can all, I mean, the survey can be anonymous, but if we want to have our name and things that we, skills we can share or materials we can share, that could be a start to our repository of community.
That would be great.
Yeah, a way that would help is that one of the options for this thing is a team project. And it might inspire people to create a team if they saw, oh, there's someone out there that does X and I can do Y, and together we could create something like that. Because I'd love to be part of a team, but I don't know for what yet. I need some support.
And one of the things I'm thinking about for this year is I've got a number of antique tablecloths. But they're probably not antique, they're more just vintage, but with like cutout and they're really pretty embroidery on them, and and I don't ever use them because they have to be ironed and starched and they're too much work for me. But what other things I could do with them? I've seen some pretty examples of making dresses or curtains or things. So one of the things I'm thinking about, I haven't decided. Using the tablecloth.
Paulette?
Yeah, I want to say that sometimes what comes across as too much work for you is something else that somebody else enjoys doing. Elderly women, men, ironing, starching, tablecloths. I mean, I'm listening to, well, I'm gonna spin this and I'm gonna knit this and I'm gonna, do all this, but ironing is just too much for me, and it's like, hold on a minute, wait.
Well, true.
So there's that. And then I also thought of the inventorying, when you inventory your husband's t-shirts and realize that some he got as gifts that he never wears and their collars are in great shapes. And then the ones that he likes, they wear out. And if you have a serger machine, it seems like you could be a little bit of a Dr. Frankenstein and pull together the necks from some and the rest for the others. And I'm so new at this compared to what I'm hearing from everybody here, but my daughter-in-laws say, you don't buy paper towels and you
No.
don't use paper napkins, and they understand about cloth napkins, but they go, how do you not use paper towels? And I go, well, the t-shirts get broken down eventually and they go into the rag box, and then some rags go to be mulch, or they get reused, or if I want, I can throw one out, I mean, and it's still less than using paper towels. So when you're doing that t-shirt inventory and you're saving collars and splicing them together and being Dr. Frankenstein, you can still mulch with your rags or turn them into rag. The life cycle of a cotton t-shirt, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And we have done that. These particular ones, he really liked those t-shirts and wanted to extend their life. And I was hoping to
Yeah.
find ways to do that. But that's a good idea too.
Is saying, well, you've got these shirts that you never use and nobody else is going to want them. I get these fundraisers from a group called Thrivent, and they always want us to order some t-shirts for the fundraiser people to wear. And I go, well, yeah, and I have, and nobody wants them, and it's not, the slogan is live generously. And I really don't want that across my bosom, but,
Well, I have a friend who
so-
cuts t-shirts and strips and weaves them into rugs.
Yeah. So there's different things you can do with the remains of the t-shirts that you took the collars from.
Yeah,
that's all.
Maybe one of the things we want to do is educate ourselves and other people on actually how to care for fabrics so they last longer. I mean, people complain about linen, but you know, in other parts of the world, you know, mangles are standard equipment in people's houses and laundry rooms because linen is so often worn. And how do we take care of wool so it doesn't get moth eaten, so it doesn't shrink, so it doesn't fade? I mean, you know, today we're so used to our textiles being thrown out when we don't want them anymore that we really don't care for them to make them last.
Amen to
real-
that. You're speaking to the
Yes.
choir.
Choir.
Indeed. And it sounds like the start of a beautiful book. Community developed book or a web page devoted to that.
Tracy, I see your hand.
Yeah, I'm wondering if anybody has experience re-waxing cotton jackets, because I'm looking at redoing my, so with you, Kathy, my waxed jacket has been, and it's got rips and tears where the sheep have grabbed it and over years and stuff, you know, and I've had it over 30 years now. And last year I did buy 2 pounds of beeswax from one of my local honey guys with the intention of re-waxing this jacket. And I haven't done it, and I've been slowly researching it. So that's probably going to be the project. But has anybody ever waxed one?
No, but it sounds fascinating. And I was
So-
thinking the same thing.
So
Yeah.
there's a company called Fallraven out of Norway that sells waxed canvas goods, and they sell the wax. And so my husband re-waxed one of his, and I think it was just like reheating the fabric and then sort of rubbing the wax on it. But they, I think, had instructions on their website. So you might want to check their website out and see if it helps.
Okay.
I've also done not a jacket, but like the beeswax wraps that you use in lieu of like saran wrap.
Right.
And to redo those, it's a similar process. It's like you heat it up and you just keep adding until the fabric won't absorb.
I can
more.
redo my beeswax wraps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New project, add that to it because they
Yeah.
need to be I was just thinking they need to go into the compost soon. There we go. I can fix those too.
That's also a great, you can make them from any fabric. Use beeswax, and there's an option of pine resin. But you can make your own beeswax wraps really easily, which is a great thing to do with little scraps of fabric. I've done this for gifts.
This is such an exciting afternoon. I'm really enjoying this.
So
Really, it's a great group here to have.
it's a great group.
So excited.
I know it's going to be a great year. We're now coming up on the hour, so if there aren't any last minute questions, or I think we've come up with some great ideas about how to keep in touch. Nancy, anything else to add? Lisa, others?
I agree. I'm excited about the year and see where we're going to go.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
We always get so much more out of the community when we're all together and talking like this. So I really appreciate everybody being here today.
It's been fun.
It has been. Well, I look forward to seeing everyone at the next meetup and in all throughout the year. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch up soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.